Hey guys, welcome back. It's Carter with Bits Be Trippin'. We're here at Miners Destruct 2024. We got definitely a couple special guests here. I'm going to let them introduce themselves. We've got TheCoinDad. I'll let you go ahead and introduce who's here with us. It's great seeing you, buddy.
Yes, sir. This is TheCoinDad. My real name's Tobias, but everybody in the industry knows me as TheCoinDad. And I'm the curator of the world's first Bitcoin mining museum. And we're here at Mining Disrupt, who sponsored us to come down. There's my phone blowing up on the air. Sorry about that, guys. But yeah, I got a special moment for myself because I've been in the space for going on 8 years now, and my dad has really never seen what I do and has never seen the full-blown museum, and he still hasn't seen it yet because we actually came here to do this before I take him to the museum. Maybe we can catch that reaction.
We absolutely will.
But this is my dad right here. His name is Johan Barbier. And this is, I'm TheCoinDad, and this is Coin Pops. But yeah, shout out to Gabriel for hooking my dad up with one of these whale tickets. That's pretty cool of you guys. I really appreciate that. But yeah, man.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, you know, it's like these are our passions, and it's really good to be able to share that and to see where it's gotten from our progress. And that thing is just ridiculously huge now. And if you haven't seen it, we're going to make sure that we're going to be sharing some of this with you guys. You know, how big it's gotten. And you know what? It always feels like each year, like we're right at the edge of just exploding into general market, people really understanding what Bitcoin is and why it's important. And why, you know, even in this presidential election, as an example, it is becoming a huge forefront on the market and participants and the different folks that are going after the presidency. If it's Trump, we had Ted Cruz here.
Not if, claiming it.
Yeah,
it will be.
It will be, yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And you know, there's a reason why. And people are now starting to go out and search for, okay, I've heard about it, heard about Bitcoin. I heard there's this mining thing. There's a way to trade it. Like, what is it? So now as people are looking for more content, you know, we see that what you've done with this museum is really preserved the history of how we got there from a mechanical standpoint, right? For supporting the network, and that's mining is very critical.
To be honest with you, everybody in this entire building would not have a job if it wasn't for the history of those miners.
For sure, absolutely.
That's the backbone.
Yeah.
That's number one. Number two, we put it in chronological order so people can get educated in what we're doing. And what I've seen just today alone, there was young people. One of them, I'm guessing, 11 or 12 years old, was asking legit questions, which kind of surprised me. Like they'd done their homework already.
Yeah.
And there were people that were new that have come here. All they know is that you can't touch Bitcoin, you can't see Bitcoin. But when you see 125 machines surrounding you in front of your face, it legitimizes Bitcoin for them, and they leave here with like, holy smokes, this is real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's the infrastructure, and to your point, the amount of industry that now has built around it to support those miners, and if it's immersion, if it's water cooling, you know, we just right before this, we sat down, we was literally sitting down with the head of product for the VP for Foundry, which used to be the AMD guy, right? Like he was literally at AMD working on GPUs for the Xbox and all these things, like really key industry players on the fabrication side of, you know, the industry stuff, and seeing like those big players now coming into this space because they see the importance of it, and you know how to get things more efficient, how to you know compartmentalize and bring down the density, or increase the density. You know, so we'll go through some of the machines there where almost all those are air cooled. There are some water cooled stuff on there too.
Yeah.
Like just seeing like the innovation and like, you know, the fabrication as it's gotten down to the tip of the spear. I mean, we're talking 3 nanometer, 2 nanometer stuff, which is like, you know, what's
the new one Bitmain just announced. Well, that's a 3 nanometer, right?
Yep.
S21 XP plus whatever. So the oldest chip that I have in my museum is 130 nanometers.
Yeah.
So we went from 130 nanometers all the way down to 3 nanometers.
Correct.
Are we going to start plateauing?
Yeah, I mean, I think
When does it
after we get to we're getting almost subatomic now. I mean, it's going to be quantum at some point, but it's we're now getting to the fabrication. This is where I always tell people, they're like, well, what's going to be the innovation? Are we going to get orders of magnitude? And what's happened over time is then if we look at some of the earliest machines, and I was talking to the founder guy about the first time I mined Bitcoin was between the 5970 GPU to the 6950 had just came out. And it was 330
I'm going to
kilohash.
guess that was 2011ish to 2012.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, but it was right there at that 2011 time frame, and it was 330 kilohash for one of those GPUs. And then the one KH, not even megahash yet.
Didn't even hit GH.
We didn't even hit megahash. So, and then I was trying to explain to the audience like the difference between like the jalapeno when it came out. Like one of the very first ones I mined with was 8 gigahash, right? So it was 300K, 300,000. Think about like dollars, $300,000 per second of hashes per second versus 8 billion.
Right.
8 giga. It's billion. So you have megas million, gigas billion. So there was a huge there's a huge leap in the tech stack of moving from a GPU general purpose ASIC to a purpose-built SHA 256 ASIC, like for that. So it was just showing this in that much time, going that leap, and then just these order of magnitude jumps. But what it was doing is it was racing. The tech stack was racing to what's the tip of the spear.
Yeah.
And we're there now. Bitcoin now is leading, from a fabrication or foundry standpoint. It's up there with iPhone 15 pluses. It's actually innovating. So now we're at that edge. So now the orders of magnitude.
Aren't we kind of battling AI now too?
And we're from a fabrication, from an industry standpoint of who gets what chips, we're getting that from a foundry standpoint of there's only so many foundries, and you can think of them like printers in your house. I only have a handful of printers in the world, and everybody wants to print something. So it's like you get in batches and cycles, and that's why it's very, essentially those foundries are running all the time. But now we're at the tip of the spear, so that means orders of magnitude only come from other innovations, like some of the cooling techniques.
The way that you're right. So basically, the infrastructure surrounding the chip is going to change to
try
make the chip more efficient.
Yeah, because the air-cooled stuff, as an example, you get 200 terahash. Well, then if you submerge it, or you do immersion, or overclock it, or do water cooling, you're at 330T. So you're getting about a 3-to-1 by changing the environment, right? But you're still on the same tip of the spear of the foundry side. So it's are we going to see, petahash at some point, right?
I think we're not too far off.
Yeah, I think with enough cooling and chip density and what you consider a machine, I think that's where it's going to go. A machine has a current form factor. I think that machine form factor will eventually change, so put more chips on it, and then you'll start seeing units that are 1 petahash. But at the end of the day, I look at it
kind of like the Zowie.
Yeah,
they got almost 1,100 chips condensed into a miner, but they did go, back towards about 7 or 8 nanometer on the chips because they're more abundant.
Correct. Yeah.
And
they could get to those global foundry.
They focused more on the cooling side with the heatsink technology with copper pipes.
Yep.
Which helped cool all those chips down, even though it's dense.
Yeah, so I like seeing it from all those threads. I look at it what's the tip of the spear, and it's really cool to walk that museum because you can see the transitional state that all these different machines went through, and the different ways the companies went through and trying to address certain things. If it was put big power supplies in there and stack up chips, or some of them were a little more dense because we had that cycle where it was USB miners and you had all these little
trial and error, wild west phase back
then. Correct. And that's what it shows, all this massive density.
Even with the Avalon 1, even though that's the first one to market, which by the way we just auctioned it off on scarcity, and ASIC Jungle was the winner. As a matter of fact, we're supposed to meet with them after this to do the handoff. But with the ASICs 1, we found out that we've done some homework, and I don't know if you remember Friedkin, the ASIC miner. Technically speaking, he made chips before Avalon did, but it was unofficially. And Avalon made it to market first officially. ASIC miners kind of unofficial with 130 nanometer chips on those blades, the 10 gigahash blades, which we have in the museum as well. And then the Butterfly Labs was basically just a talk.
Yeah.
Pre-order. Yeah, that was a huge mess.
Yeah, they had the jalapeno, and that was about it. And then it ended up, some of the other Monarch and a few of the other ones, just kind of turned into vapor. And then different bear markets kind of killed a couple other units. You had KNC Miner, you had a few.
They went bankrupt and stuff.
Silicone, and which I loved Silicone stuff. Or not Silicone, it was Spondulis.
Yeah. Speaking of Spondulis, one of the technicians from Spondulis is here. Walked through it and was surprised to see that we have every single one from Spondulis.
Oh, wow.
And then he told us that the rarity level of them, because he knows how many were made. And then I took a selfie with him, and he sent it to the CEO in Israel. And the CEO in Israel was like, "What in the world? How did they get all of our machines over there?" It was like cool little Spondulis moment that I had.
I mean, it is a very complete. Let me transition to a question. What are you missing? Do we know what you're missing? I mean, is there stuff?
It's difficult because I understand that there's other stuff out there that I don't even know what to look for. So I don't. So what I tell people is, if you feel like you have something in your shed or in your closet at home, grab it, see what the model is, and then go to our website, BitcoinMiningMuseum.com. And if you don't see it in our gallery, then we don't have it. We need it. That's the simplest way to put it. You can go by order of manufacturer, and then click on that and go to the models. And if you don't see that model or the manufacturer, then we need it.
Yeah. We want to preserve that history. You always find garage finds. I mean, I was into cars before even getting into Bitcoin and stuff. And, going and finding an old Mach 1 or something that's in a garage that just hasn't seen the light of day in a while. It's really interesting to see what's out there. And I know there was a lot of custom fab stuff done. Big Fury did some stuff, some private stuff from folks, and just seeing iterations. So it is like no ASIC is too small or too large. If it was a custom thing, they want to have it preserved in this, and it is the history. And, I can see this at some point being in, like they have history museums for all kinds of stuff. Bowling, and then St. Louis bowling. So this is an industry that needs a spot. So I know you've been taking it around, but we need a.
Speaking of that, though, that's kind of an issue I want to address. Moving it around is not easy. We move around armed. We have armed security at nighttime while we're gone. But driving 1,000 miles down and 1,000 miles back, and our tire blew out in West Palm Beach. The miners fell off the shelf. The shelf broke. I can't replace some of these things. So it's actually time for me to have some conversations, with people with CapEx out there that might be interested in helping us out to do a brick and mortar situation and preserve the history. Because all it takes is for one drunk person to bump into it, falls on the floor, and I can't replace it.
It's some of these are extremely rare, like a handful made, and they're in pristine condition, clean. That whole farm over there is really clean.
We have a refurbishment shop too, where we go through the cleaning process when we get stuff donated to us.
To get it. Some of them well used, and I know there was a couple of really cool stories that we were talking about, like when you were going for, I think, the Avalon one, and in the original spot that it was on video.
In Pennsylvania.
And
from that documentary, The Rise and Rise of Bitcoin. That was the one from that documentary. That's what we have.
That's amazing. So it has some tangential history with it because it had that too, and being able to see some of that. But getting this in a proper museum. Especially with now this becoming switching kind of back to the political side, now getting the structure in the industry. This is a normal thing that would happen. Right after that, it gets into a museum, maybe one of the larger museums. If you're a museum owner or a procurer of things for a national museum, something reach out. Let's figure out and see if we can
actually thinking more outside the box.
I
think it's a little boring to be going down a regular museum process. I'm thinking Hard Rock Cafe type stuff.
Oh, there you go. Something that's a little more.
I'm thinking having the Avalon around a Mission Impossible theme with laser lights all around it. I'm thinking S9 casings with LED lights in them hanging all over the ceilings with the little red and blue lights and red and green lights flashing, so it looked like the whole ceiling is mining. And having the Genesis block on the floor printed all over the place.
It's its own restaurant too.
Fusion.
It's a fusion.
And then you open the menu up and you have Satoshi drinks and Charlie Shrem drinks, and all these OGs are in there.
Hey, anybody looking that has their menu ready, looking for that thematic approach to it. I like
And
it.
something that the kids can still go to and get educated for the history of mining for a school field trip from
Hard Rock is a good example where they have like the areas where it is like the history, and it is showing how pop culture evolved, and they have various sets or a particular piece, and they have the picture with the piece, and it just makes sense to kind of put that in display.
And if a maxi out there wants to get married, you can have a Bitcoin themed wedding and rent the place out.
There you go.
Like all kinds of different ways to skin the cat.
It sounds like something that needs to be in Vegas. So out there.
I was thinking Miami, Nashville, over there with David Bailey and BTC, or Dallas, Austin area. I think
definitely a metropolitan area. It needs to be in an area that's accessible for people to get the most foot traffic, for people to see it and understand the history. I bet you there's quite a few industry people that are building that come over and just vicariously kind of look at how that progress is made. Because it is good to even see like approach strategy, because sometimes you're going down a way to maybe handle cooling or handle something else, and then you have the history right here.
You did all the legwork.
You did all the legwork. You gathered all
phase.
the stuff. So if you want to look at where you're at generationally.
But to be honest with you, that might have my dad here. I wanted to point out the fact that he instilled some of these values of me helping to think outside the box. So this museum technically wouldn't even exist without me sitting at home in my old shop, and I'm looking at 8, 10 different models, and I'm wondering that's cool. I got different machines sitting up there, and I cleaned the dust off and put them all organized and went on eBay, bought more, and I get to 20, 25, 30, and then I'm thinking to myself, okay, well maybe there's a museum out there that I can contribute these to. And crickets, I went all over the internet, ain't nobody doing this. But that thinking of that process, that's kind of how my dad does things and how he taught me growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
So just having that type of mind frame was technically from him, and that's the reason why technically this museum exists.
That's awesome. So that's a great.
Thank you, Dad.
You're welcome. Love it.
Surprise, surprise. First of all, I would like to say thank you for inviting me. As I walked in from the car into the parking lot, the entrance called him.
Yeah.
So I looked up, and I didn't have to look too far. I see Bitcoin mining museum. So I know that I'm on the right place.
Yes.
And Tobias, my son, is going to be here. And then the joy actually even more, he picked me up and he brought me to Gabriel. And Gabriel gave me that.
That well pass.
That's awesome. So let me tell you, I'm really, really proud of Tobias. Even though I'm not the guy who's fond of his mic, I like I work all my life behind the scene. This means being there for people who need help. But it doesn't matter if it's behind the scenes or on stage. We have to have some kind of goal, some kind of mindset, and be in a process to say, okay, I never give up. Looking backwards in my life, coming from Germany years ago, and he was just about 12 years old, and starting all over again, and had to go through the whole process of education, including English.
Yeah.
So never give up. And I think that was actually the ground level for him as well. So starting with this museum to never give up in regards of reaching his goal, and I'm so happy that I was once in a while looking over his shoulder, looking where he's standing, even though now the terminology is pretty new for me.
Yes.
Okay, but I understand the joy which is behind it, or what kind of value already accomplished. So, otherwise, I'm very proud of you. Proud of you.
Love it. It's great.
Don't make me cry on camera.
No, but it's amazing, and that's what we as parents, it's something special if you can actually continue giving it to your children. I worked 15 years in the medical field. I'm retired for 6 and 7 years now, and it's so nice to know that you have a family who loves you, and you did the right thing. So Tobias, yes, you did the right thing, because this shows and proves that all the people that I've seen it while you're walking in, everybody loves you, everybody shakes hands with you, and everybody knows TheCoinDad. So yeah, usually I'm actually prepared with my little
Notes,
PowerPoints, whatever, to be able to do this, what I'm doing right now. But I think I'm talking from my heart. And then there's one big guy who came actually in my mind in regards of never give up. That's what Churchill, Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys remember. And he was fighting against the Germans, and he said, like, never give up. And this is his famous quote, one of his famous quotes. He has many. So I think this is actually for all of us. Sitting over here, and I would like to say to you and to you, never give up. Continue doing what you're doing because you're on the right track. And you mentioned in the beginning the election.
Yeah.
So maybe something new is going to come.
Yeah.
And so we are prepped. We are prepared for it. We don't know, but you know. And one thing I would like to add here is that I love my Lord, and I would like to serve Him and making sure that I'm doing the right thing. So if He guides me and He introduced me to Bitcoin, and so
I helped save some of his retirement money
he
into
saved some
Bitcoin. It took me a
retirement
little while to convince him.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is though, I guess that little step of motivation to say, okay, let's do it, because he's kind of still old school minded when it comes to fiat and all that. It was actually my mom who was listening to some sermons on YouTube, and a pastor somewhere started speaking about how good Bitcoin is. So then she went to my dad. She's like, "Come on, get your son. Let's get some Bitcoin."
The democratization. That's what attracted me to it in the very beginning. Of like, when you can do things, you can get lost on the internet, find it, and then participate, and wake up the next morning in the mining site and have even just an incremental reward. And you're like, you know what? I didn't ask for permission. I'm contributing work, and I'm compensated for that work in this token. And then people that don't have maybe the opportunity to mine, maybe they're in an apartment in New York or something, and they just don't have the power. They end up being the counterparty, and they're buying it, and they're looking at this whole exchange happen vicariously through the network without any entity, controlling one entity, right? I mean, it's just like that itself is something new. It's different. We have so many centralized systems. Some of them are good for helping people that less fortunate or whatever, but like this is something that is different, and like that I think attracts all of us in this space. To like, how can we talk about it? How can we preserve the history of it? How can we, be part of this ecosystem? We're just a component of it, right? Like,
we're all a part of the network.
Yeah, we're part of the network, and
one thing that I like is because he's retired, and I would like to say this to anybody else out there that's in the older phase in their lives. Most retired people are on a fixed income, and the dollar is dying, and they think that they're good for the next 20 years with whatever little check they get from the job that they worked 50 years at. There's people that are retired now finding part-time jobs because they actually can't make it anymore. And Bitcoin, rather it's at least the ETF into Bitcoin spot, but Bitcoin itself, I highly recommend any retired person out there preserve that wealth that you worked all your life for, and put it into Bitcoin so at least can grow with it. Because you're not promised tomorrow, but then again, you might be alive another 25 years after you're retired. What are you going to do in 25 years? Because that dollar ain't going to be there for you anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely having a huge amount of inflation, and I don't think there's a way to really turn it. But there is these other options, especially with Bitcoin being a scarce asset. And I mean, industry scene. I mean, like, this was conversations we were having in 2014, but now we're seeing financial instruments, we're seeing ETFs, we're seeing access to capital to get into it, because they understand. They came in, they visited. Some of these larger institutions have visited to see. But there's infrastructure.
You're from that era from 2013. Would you have ever thought back then that we would be here today in 10 years?
Like, it was one of those things that I think that your normal mind will go, like, there's no way the governments in the world, they're going to collaborate and they're going to try to shut it down. right? Because this is when you look at the foundation of it being an individual participant.
Elizabeth Warren's a chief.
Yeah, of like, and this is going to cause a change in what the status quo is, right? So I thought there would be a much larger attack. What is interesting is I think that it's kind of like enough of the legislative folks that are out there, if there were their aides, if it was their kids, people started seeing digital payments, they started seeing this thing, and then they started to understand it. So they learned enough to understand that this is a leaner and a better way to do things.
It's hard money.
It's hard money. Maybe we should lean into this because this does look like a better system. And now you're seeing enough inertia started to get the conversation started. Now you're always going to have resistance in everything. I mean, literally, there's people that don't believe the Earth is,
I've been to North Dakota. People out there might probably believe that. You just shoot a bullet and it'll just keep going.
Right.
It's flat.
There are absolutely. I mean, some people believe the sky is blue, then the space doesn't exist, right? So, but you're always going to have like kind of your outer edges. But there is now a median, I think, occurring that is looking at all of the financial inclusion, all the different aspects of being able to be a participant. If you're a miner, if you're trading, if you're pulling it in as an investment, if you're holding it, and then all those other ancillary services from financial services, support, all that stuff. Like always building around that.
In North Carolina, I'm part of the North Carolina Blockchain Initiative team.
Yep.
And for about the last year and a half, we've on our level in our backyard anyway, we've been educating politicians that we feel are going to be in our future when it comes to being elected. So we've spent time with Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson, gave him a tour in the facility. Senator Ted Budd, who's already up in D.C. as a senator. Before he became a senator, we toured him and educated him on Bitcoin. Most recently, we've had Al Weatherman, who's going for the Lieutenant Governor slot in November, and we gave him a tour. But these are some of the younger generation officials that we're trying to basically educate to make a better future for us in our backyard when it comes to Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining, so we have a better atmosphere. Especially, you're in our backyard mining too.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got one out there in North Carolina also, and I've always been offering to open it up to bring in and educate. We do that in another way too. We've had various power company leaders, industry folks, the government folks out there to come look at the facility to understand the critical infrastructure aspect of it, because there's a lot of benefits than just mining Bitcoin with it. There's leveling of the grid. There's all these other ancillary things that don't occur in our business. And part of our establishment of the power company, as an example, sitting down with the board of the power company on Southwestern Electric, and their first thing was like, we can't get to these power rates because you're talking using 5 megawatts, 8 megawatts. We have entities that use 20 megawatts. But then I'm like, well, do they use them all the time, like 75+% constant? And no, what you end up finding is somebody that's using 20 megawatts like as a peak, because they're a foundry service, or like this particular one was a steel mill, so they would peak up to melt the steel, and then that would go on a 3-day period, and then they would be off for 4, right? So they're not using it, right? So it's a real high peak, and then they're off for 4 days. And when you look at their cumulative total of energy consumption, it's actually less than our 5 megawatts, even though they have 20 available. So once they started to understand, like, well, I could be a grid balancer, I'm a constant, and then when that steel mill needs to turn on a peak day or a Tuesday afternoon,
so miners have that capability through software.
Correct. We can easily.
Forest City has, for example, a $500 million Facebook data center that uses 150 megs to hold trillions of selfies. Like, seriously? You can't just shut down trillions of selfies to help balance the grid.
Correct.
But we can.
Yeah. So you got data centers, you got processes, you got business processes that have batches, they can't stop in the middle. Bitcoin curtailment can.
Yes.
Like, we're a fair market participant, and we understand that we are trying to be a good participant in the network. And with that, we're also looking for literally the bottom tiers of the rates, right? And that's what it comes down to.
And then we bring jobs to the small towns, and then they get some tax incentives out of that to help fix the potholes and stuff like that, or the local swimming pool. as we come in, you can revitalize a whole water plant that got 6 foot tall grass. You bring the funds in, as long as the energy companies can compromise with us, then we can make things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're definitely being a healthy participant in all that. And yeah, I mean, I think there's mining is there's different ways to get it into Bitcoin. I mean, obviously we went heavy into the mining aspect of it, and I like it because it's that first touch. It's that we're the security of the network. It's important, and making sure people can get to all the different issues and stuff.
By the way, congrats on your site in North Carolina. And I went to his site and got to check it out and help him out a little bit during the early days of it. But I've seen some recent stuff, and it's pretty impressive what your team has done in such a short freaking time frame.
Yeah, we've really worked to try to get it optimized. I mean, that site was really designed around GPU mining. There's 208 30 amp circuits, and per 4 gain plug. So if you put 2 miners on that, and actually put around 2,500, 2,700 watts. Most miners these days are at 3,000, 3,300, 3,400 watts. So we had to optimize it, and then we had to really contain the airflow because it was really. GPUs are a little forgiving, comparable to an ASIC, right? Yeah. So it didn't need to be so airtight. Like, so we had to really turn that into like a true airtight location, capture that heat, extract that heat, and then have the intakes correct.
You guys done a great job on that.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, we work hard to get that done, and some of the other sites that one that we just built, cradle to grave. From a grass field to a fully operating site in 3 weeks.
That's insane.
It was really
less
quick.
than a month.
Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever heard of anything faster than that.
Yeah, it's
a lot of Chick-fil-A team right there.
We came in, they're like, oh, there's no way you can get this done in 3 weeks. I'm like, I don't know. I think we can. Here's the plans, and just working. What it really comes down to is making sure the team's ready. Getting everything ordered. Luckily, all the parts were available right then and there. We picked them at a local place, so I for all the electric stuff. And it's amazing what you can, the underground, all the power, and all that stuff. It happened pretty quick, and the power company really supported us on that. Got it energized by June 3rd. It was a May 13th start, and it was amazing. We were able to get the 2 20-foot containers up and running, fenced, security, everything done. Right on the wall. It's awesome. Really quick. So it showed what's in the realm of possible. And I think it's also a good poison pill to go back to government and industry saying, hey, we can move this if this is wrong. Like if this is not a healthy environment, get bills in place that put a tax on our industry. It's just going to shift, and it's nothing personal. It's the network. This is mechanical in such a way that it's not like normal business, whereas the normal.
Here's some bottleneck stories out there, with the inspectors from the counties that come in. One of my neighbors, one of my old buddies, he's maybe 50 miles from us in North Carolina. He just messaged me yesterday, and he said, I finally got my inspection 14 months later.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
For the electrical, for the container.
Yeah,
that's insane.
We usually pre-scheduled a couple weeks out before we're tracking, and that one we were lucky that the inspector team's already energized, the meter, put a tag on it, we were up and running. So it really comes down to there was a lot of legwork ahead of that, right, to get it to where they were comfortable with what they knew what we were doing. It's our 3rd site in that particular area, so all the players around there knows what we're doing. And I'm always texting people or sending emails or giving them pictures. So the inspectors, everybody knew what was going on because we're literally creating data reports. We're saying, hey, here's where we're at in the status. Here's where our days are tracking. Hey, this day slipped, it rained. We had 2 heavy rain days every week. We were completely shut down. We couldn't do anything. But we still gave them a report that day. And I think it's I think most things in life is all about communication. And if you just talk to people, respect and talk, and just say, hey, if this doesn't work, I can
be a little proactive with it.
And you got to be able to be fluid. You got to not every schedule's set. We both you're in the military. I've supported warfighter, and it's like you go in with the plan. And then you do the thing. You do something, you execute.
And even if you can't execute, at least be polite enough to call and say, hey, I can't do it for whatever reason.
Correct.
Some people don't even do that much.
Correct, yeah. And so, but those plan A's end up turning into plan Z, right. You get it done, but, you had a journey getting there. And we're just believers in recording that journey so we can go back and look at it and share it with everybody. So I think